On today's show, now that the Mavericks have traded for Grant Williams, what about Matisse Thybulle? The Mavericks have signed him to an offer sheet. What happens next? What can the Mavericks do? And more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. Join the Raccoon Squad, be an everydayer, subscribe or follow for free to not miss anything. Just search Locked On Mavericks wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube, where the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and to comment anything below. Let us know your reaction to the Grant Williams trade. Let us know what you think about Matisse Thybulle and all of that. If you want to support the show, get texts from us, get text alerts from us straight to your phone. Subscribe to our subtext. Click the link in the description or text the number in the description. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, contributor at Mavs.com, the double dipping dude, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Let's go. We dropped an emergency pod a little while ago on the whole Grant Williams trade and all of that. It's always fun. Well, I shouldn't say always fun, 'cause you're hoping that you're on the good side of it. But whenever you get the notification that says the Dallas Mavericks are finalizing a trade, you're like, oh my gosh, who is it? And, it was good. I mean, this is one of the offseason targets with Grant Williams. And but that was like middle of the day or towards the end of the day. Matisse Thybulle was that little news nugget dropped earlier, and I was like, all right, let's get this going.
Yeah, so if you want to listen to our thoughts on Grant Williams, like Isaac said, we just did an emergency pod, so go listen to that one in your feed wherever you're listening or watching this. And today we'll talk about Grant Williams a little bit more. We'll talk about what the Mavericks can do next if this Matisse Thybulle thing goes through, if it doesn't go through. But we're going to start here with, and then if we have time, I'll share some thoughts from summer league practice that I went to today and all that. But let's start with the report from Chris Haynes came earlier today, and then again later today. Portland's restricted free agent Matisse Thybulle will sign his offer sheet with Dallas on Thursday, giving the Blazers 2 days to deliberate on matching or not. Shams Charania updated that report and said that the deal is 3 years of a contract offer in the $33 million range with the Dallas Mavericks. So he's a restricted free agent. He can sign an offer sheet with anybody, just like we saw with DeAndre Ayton a couple years ago, or last year, actually. He signs an offer sheet with the Pacers. The Suns then get to decide if they want to match it. If they match it, he just goes back to the original team. He cannot just, this is my dog weighing in. He cannot just go to the Mavericks and make his own decision. That's why he's restricted. So this is the situation the Mavericks are in now, that the Blazers could just decide to match, and then Matisse Thybulle doesn't go to the Mavericks, but then the Mavericks still have their MLE still open. So
yeah, so, I mean, Portland could very well match it, just like you said. I mean, he's still 26. Why Dallas wants him, why Portland would match it is because he's a really good perimeter defender. When it comes to his shooting, for his career, he hasn't been the greatest shooter in the world. If you want to believe the short stint in Portland that he's turned the page, then that would be great. That would be huge for him, actually.
Hey, he 33 of 85 attempts. He shot 39% from three in his 22 games for the Blazers. So, hey.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you look at his catch and shoot, stuff in Portland for those games. Yeah, I mean, he was at like 39% on all catch and shoot shots. Like you said, you look at some of the 3-point numbers and stuff with that. It was good. I mean, it was the best in his career so far shooting wise. So if you believe that, which if Portland does, then they should match it, to be honest. Because especially if you have guys like Anthony Simons in Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe, like if Thybulle can hit a three, then you want a bigger perimeter defender like him to go alongside those guys. So I think they should match, but Dallas, I hope they don't, because his fit in Dallas would be great too. And to add Thybulle and Grant Williams, while just sacrificing, basically Reggie Bullock would be huge.
We've seen, Sean Highkin, Dan Meringue, some media people around the Blazers say that they think that the Blazers will match this. Here's the case for them not doing it, what the Mavericks are hoping. Thybulle's about to turn 27 years old. Thybulle doesn't really have an offensive game too much. And his shooting, while it was good in Portland last year for those 22 games, small sample size theater. And if the lack of spacing could really affect Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, like they could really struggle with a lack of shooting with that. And so you could find, it could be interesting to try and figure out how those guys all work together. That's the case for them not bringing him back. But like you said, the same reasons the Blazers would bring him back is the same reason the Mavericks want him. Is because he's an elite defensive player. He's made 2 all defensive teams. He would right away become the Mavericks' best defensive player, right?
He would be the best perimeter defender that they've had in a while. I mean, years.
Since Michael Finley? Or since Sean Marion?
Dang, that's kind of sad if that's the case.
Definitely since Sean Marion.
I want to say when Wes first got here, he wasn't.
Wes Matthews?
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, he's, Thybulle 6'6", 6'7", 7-foot wingspan. Just be something that they haven't had. I mean, the main thing, what Dallas want to do this offseason is to get bigger on their perimeter defense, not just at their center spot. And to be able to look at it and say, hey, we got a stout Grant Williams that's that 6'6", 6'7", thick body and can switch and can guard the other bigger perimeter guys, and to add a guy like Thybulle too. Like, you understand why they want to do that. Why is it not the full MLE? Because some of that salary offsetting, there's still so much in the air with Dallas of some of these trades and all of this stuff that, Grant Williams, a little bit more money than what Reggie Bullock was. So it cuts into some of how much money you can offer. But yeah,
I've been texting with all the subtexters all day today about this. Everybody's been asking the questions. Well, what does this mean? Does this mean they're giving them the full MLE? And I get wanting to know. The thing about this part of the NBA season right now, and it goes with this Matisse Thybulle move, it goes with the Grant Williams move, is everything is fluid. Rashawn Holmes is not even a Maverick yet. Mm-hmm. Think about how long ago that trade feels now. Like, he hasn't even been introduced by the Mavericks, or that's still open for them to still move him on.
Lively and Omax haven't even signed their contract.
They can't even practice. I was at Summer League practice and they still can't participate. I talked about that yesterday, but they can't participate in any kind of contact, drills or scrimmages or anything like that until the trades go through. So they can only do 1-on-0 stuff. And so, like
if the Mavs were playing in Salt Lake City or Sacramento Summer League,
they wouldn't play.
They wouldn't be playing.
And so everything is fluid because everything can be maneuvered around. They can move things. Like right now, Seth Curry is part of the biannual exception. That could change, and all of a sudden he's part of the MLE. So they keep the biannual exception for next year. Like, they can still move all these things around, reroute Rashawn Holmes to everything. Just so fluid. Let's wait till some of it shakes out just a little bit to know what the Mavericks can do next and what they are going to do next. But
and the order of things,
right?
The order
that's
that
our thing
things
every year.
happen is so huge. Even when you look at some of the Miami stuff with Dame, like, I mean, some of it's getting so complicated. If they want to go a certain route, then they have to loop in the Oladipo trade with OKC and like all this stuff. And it's just, the order of things matter. So after the 6th, when everything can start becoming official, or things will get ironed out.
So about moves in silos, right? You don't know about the big picture necessarily.
Great show.
About everything. But you know about this. So in this silo of this move, the Mavericks have signed him to an offer sheet, 3 years, $33 million. And the Blazers
plan to. I don't know if that's official yet, but
yeah, I guess the report is that he will sign his offer sheet. So the Mavericks, I guess, have offered it if there is a sheet, and then, which they can do before Thursday. We kept saying Thursday. That's when the timer starts for the teams to match it. They could have offered him days ago to do this. I mean, it happens, but then the timer doesn't start for them to match until after Thursday. So the Blazers now have 2 days to deliberate and to decide to match this or not. And the Mavericks are making that bet. And if they do match it, then the Mavericks still have some of their MLE. They can do some other stuff. They can move it around. They got Grant Williams. They have Omax. They have Josh Green. Like, they have some answers. This isn't like a make or break move, but I think it is a good bet for the Mavericks because he's going to be the best defensive. I think he's the best defensive player that was available this offseason. He's just got a lot of offensive limitations the Mavericks could have, are going to have to work through. And so that's where we are right now with it.
Yes.
So coming up, let's get into where the Mavericks roster is right now. What else can they do if this goes through, if it doesn't go through, and all that. And then we'll talk about Grant Williams a little bit later on the show. We'll do that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about BetterHelp. BetterHelp can help you. We all need help. If you're stressing about free agency, if you're just thinking about, man, I go to bed at night thinking about what would a Matisse Thybulle and Grant Williams and Luka and Kyrie and Derek Lively, what would that look like? And if you're just stressing about it, or if you're stressing about, oh my gosh, did the Mavericks use their full MLE on Thybulle, or did they not? And you're stressing about that, you may need to talk to somebody, and you may need BetterHelp. We all have things we need to talk about. I've used BetterHelp. I go to therapy. Isaac has gone to therapy. We've all had things in our life that we needed to talk about. Some more complicated than others. You need specialists or other things. BetterHelp can help you. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists whenever you want. That's very important. They know that you're going to switch. They know you're going to need to find someone that you vibe with. You can switch whenever you want. That's really awesome with BetterHelp. So let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of this show and listening to us. Again, go back and listen to our Grant Williams trade reaction pod. We'll be back. We're continuing daily. I'm going to Summer League, so we'll have all kinds of stuff at Summer League throughout. I'll probably have some guests and probably grab some people and just do some interviews and all that. I was laughing earlier because I was about to go back from break, and Isaac was completely out of his chair, like grabbing something.
Hey, I'm back.
He's back now. All right, Isaac, let's talk about this Matisse Thybulle thing. First of all, do you think it goes through?
Like Portland matches?
Yeah, or do you think the Mavericks get him, basically?
I'm expecting Portland to match. Yeah. Because I think in today's world, $10 million for Thybulle, like, we got to understand, like, I think it was Simmons and Russillo the other day were talking about just reframing your mind of what, back in the day, like what the $6 million player was.
Right.
And now reframing in today's world, this new cap of like, all right, those players are now like $10 to $12 million. And I think that's where, when you start looking at like $10 million guys, that's just not going to be a ton for a guy whenever this new cap stuff starts kicking in and, it starts rising more. So I just don't, unless Portland's so confused and Dallas is going to come in the midst of chaos, right, and just say, hey, as you're trying to figure out everything with Dame, we're going to try to steal this guy. That's the only way I think that I could see it.
Or they had him banked at a certain number, and they made the Jeremy Grant deal. They'll have to bring back salary in the Dame deal, probably, because they can't just dump stuff on San Antonio. San Antonio, low key, just lost $10 million in their salary cap by picking up Reggie Bullock in the Grant Williams deal. So they're not a destination for somebody to just dump a salary on anymore. They got like $15 million, I guess, left. But
I wonder if they'll keep him or buy him out.
Yeah, he's only got 1 year, so they could buy out Reggie Bullock. But yeah, the Blazers will have to take that back. The Blazers have, what do they have right now? $148 million in salaries. And so they're up against them. I mean, they're over the cap right now. And so they may want to, if this is before bringing back Matisse Thybulle. So they may not want to hit that number. And even if you say, well, they just want to keep him for money reasons, they may not want to bring this very rebuilding team into the first apron, which that would bring them into the first apron if they re-signed him to this deal.
A good portion of that is $40-something million to Damian Lillard,
which they'll have to take back in salaries to make it match for Miami or whoever he ends up with anyway. So like it's not going to change that much, because that's what I just said about San Antonio. They can't just dump salaries somewhere. It's got to go somewhere. And so I think some of it has to come back. So this could be I'm really trying to play like this is why the Blazers would not match it, because
I hope you're right.
Yeah, we hope that's right. But it's interesting that we're on different sides of this. Where I'm really preaching the positive.
We're both on the same side of what we want. So
yeah,
we both want them not to match it. You're more optimistic than I am.
But let's say this. Let's go through the path that if this goes through. Well, let's say Blazers take my side and don't match it for money reasons or roster reasons or whatever, and say, all right, we're not going to match it. Have Thybulle, enjoy, continue to move on. Where does the roster stand now?
Yeah, so you'd have Luka and Kyrie, Grant Williams,
great,
Thybulle,
great,
and let's just say Dwight at that point. You still have all of your young guys. So you still have Josh Green, Jaden Hardy, Lively, Omax. You have the flyer on Dante Exum. You sign Seth Curry. But the biggest thing is you got those 4 players that you can still move out. JaVale, Tim, Maxey, or Rashawn Holmes. I don't like putting Maxey in that group, but he's just in that didn't just get signed, but he's still, carry over on the roster and stuff. So that you can go out and go get a big. Like, can you imagine what this Mavs offseason would be if they re-sign Kyrie, they get Grant Williams and Thybulle, and then trade for a legit starting center like a Jarrett Allen or something?
And got those 2 rookies that
let's just go down to Victory Park and get some drinks at that point. Like, I mean, that would be a huge offseason for Dallas. I still think the offseason so far is going great for them. Yeah. So far, they still got to address the big spot. That's that's kind of the last at the beginning of the emergency pod of the Grant Williams thing. I said I was kind of treating it like a finals thing. When a team wins a finals game, they're like, all right, 2 more or one more.
Job's not done. Doing the Kobe. Job's not done.
Exactly. So like them getting Grant Williams was the equivalent of me saying, hey, job's not done. Like, good move. Glad we got the dub, but job's not done. And so that's kind of sorry.
Isaac's daughter has entered the chat.
Go.
What is her take on Thybulle? Does she think that they'll match or not?
She just got out of her little blow-up swimming pool outside, so she don't give a crap about basketball.
Required right now with this Dallas Heat. I mean, we're going through it here.
This is our second pod since I've been home, so my wife has been on kids duty ever since I got home because I'm like, dude, I got to do a Grant Williams pod, and then we got to talk about Matisse Thybulle. So
definitely things that you have to do in your life. But so if it does go through, all of a sudden the Mavericks have a strength of perimeter defense, and they get back a bunch of they have all of a sudden a bunch of wings in Grant Williams and Thybulle and Josh Green. In Exum, he's 6'6". You could throw him out there as and definitely Omax as like all of a sudden, and they're all young too. Thybulle's going to turn 27. Grant Williams about to turn 25. Josh Green is younger. Omax is a rookie, so that they have some youth and athleticism on the roster all of a sudden, where they just didn't have that last year, which would be something awesome. What could the Mavericks do then? So the thing that they still have to do, their number one priority besides bringing back Kyrie, was to address center, which they still could do. We still expect a Tim Hardaway trade to happen at some point. I think a lot of people have talked about that. And so we expect that to happen at some point for some kind of center. The Mavericks, low-key, got 2 second-round picks in this. I think I just said that the same exact way I did in our in our emergency pod. They got 2 second-round picks in this deal, too, to grease some kind of other trade through. So is the DeAndre Ayton trade for, Tim Hardaway, Rashawn Holmes, JaVale McGee, and the 2 second-round picks? Like, would you do that at this point?
Yeah, probably. Sure.
I would do it. I think I would do it, and just you gotta upgrade at that spot. I said it a couple days ago. I'm going to say it again. They addressed their past, bringing back Kyrie, and then they addressed their future with the picks, and now they're kind of addressing their present with Grant Williams, maybe Thybulle, but you gotta fix center. You're just not upgrading the roster enough. You're addressing some things, but you're not upgrading the roster enough to go into next year and feel good. If you got DeAndre Ayton, you would feel good about it.
Them getting to 2 seconds gives you a little bit of ammo for if you need to just dump JaVale somewhere. Right. Yeah, you can dump it with a second round pick. And I know some Mavs fans will freak out whenever that happens and be like, "Oh my gosh, we gave up a second just to dump JaVale's contract.
He was our number one signing in that year, and then they had to dump him." Then it's like, okay.
But realistically, I mean, now you got something to actually dump the contract with. So, because if they get Thybulle, then basically your roster set at that point, which is already better than last year. But then, you still got to figure out the trade, which is probably going to be a 2-for-1 type of trade, with another team for a big. So
if it doesn't go through, if they don't get Thybulle, if the Blazers do match and Isaac gets his way, if that
no.
If that does happen, then the Mavericks will still have their MLE, and they could decide to just move. Look, they could move Seth Curry into that. They could move Dwight into that. They could do a couple of things. You can't use it as a trade exception yet. Next year, you'll be able to do that. I think that's so weird that you can't do it this year, but you can do it next year. But the new CBA comes. It's like, why are we waiting 1 year for that? It could be used as a trade exception next year. But then if you move Seth in, you get the biannual exception next year. So you have that as an option. You don't get it if you just use it
That's what I was gonna say. It's like, unless there's a player out there that is worth it to you around the $9 or $10 million mark, then you might as well just sign Seth into that, and then it still gives you like $4 or $5 million left of the MLE at that point, and then go sign a $4 million player, another wing out there that's a little cheaper. It's still a free agent. I'm sure if Portland matches, we'll do a pod after that of saying, all right, now where do they go with one of those last few roster spots? What's some cheaper Thybulle options that's still on the table? We'll go ahead and look at that. But right now, it looks like Dallas is going to wait out Portland. How long will Portland take? Will they
have 2 days. So
yeah, and I could see them taking it as they figure out the Dame stuff and all of that, or they could just immediately match it, and that'd help Dallas out.
I think in this age of Blue Sky and Spill and Threads and all these apps that just are instant information, we'll find out before the 2 days. I think whether they intend to or not, right? Like they may take the 2 days to actually do it, but we'll find out earlier, I think. That's why anybody that was like texting us in the subtext and saying like, how long will it take? I'm not that worried about it. I'm not going to get all caught up in how exactly long they have, because there's also different versions of this where they get 2 days, or they get 1 day, or they get there's depending on when the Mavericks did this offer. So I'm not going to get too held up on the amount of time, on the timing, because we'll find out eventually. So coming up, let's talk about Grant Williams. Let's talk about, is he a clear upgrade over Reggie Bullock? Have the Mavericks actually upgraded with Grant Williams? We'll talk about that coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into our last thing here. We've talked about Matisse Thybulle a lot today. Let's go back and talk about Grant Williams. The Mavericks traded for him. We did our reaction show, so if you haven't listened to that, go ahead and go back in your feed and listen to that episode. But the Mavericks trade. They get Grant Williams, 2 second-round picks in that, and then the Celtics get a couple of second-round picks, and they get a traded player exception. The Spurs get Reggie Bullock and an unprotected pick swap in 2030. The Spurs are betting on themselves being better than the Mavericks in 2030, which, hey, not a bad bet there at this point in Victor Wembanyama and Luka's careers. But the question I want to answer is Grant Williams a clear upgrade over Reggie Bullock right now? We can look in the future and say obviously he's younger, but is he a clear upgrade? Like, did the Mavericks actually get better with this trade?
I think so. I mean, you definitely got younger, right? I mean, Reggie's 32. Grant's about to turn 25 later this year, so he'll start the season 24. So that's one part you got to look at. Two, I think they want to get bigger on the perimeter, and I think Grant gives them that with some of these bigger fours out there, and to where like Reggie would take his shots at the Kawhis and bigger guys of the world, but like you're not putting Reggie in the post against LeBron when you play the Lakers.
No,
you're putting Grant in the post whenever you're playing the Lakers. So
or against Giannis.
Yeah, you're not putting Reggie on Giannis. You're going to try Grant, and Giannis will still do really good. But like we said in the emergency pod, Grant, if you're having to draft, some players that go against Giannis, Grant's probably going to be one of those dudes that you throw out there. He's at least played him well at times. So I think that's for what Dallas is wanting right now. It's the clear upgrade. Not just getting younger, but also the defensive versatility of the type of guys that he can guard. And we detailed it. This isn't just hindsight now that we've traded him. We've said this before they traded him. I didn't think that they were going to trade Reggie Bullock. I think if it was Dallas's preference, they probably would have traded Tim over Reggie because Reggie's a better defender. But we said this before. It did feel like Reggie took a little step backwards last year defensively and guarding on the perimeter. So, he is 32. He did. I mean, something for Mavs fans. I mean, hats off to Reggie Bullock for the playoff run. I mean, playing over 40 minutes a game in that Western Conference, finals run. I mean, that's something I'll remember him and Dorian being the two wings that just played dang near felt like every game. And he was a blast to have in Dallas. So it sucks to lose him out of the locker room and a vet and all of that. But yes, I think Grant Williams is a clear upgrade for what Dallas is trying to shift to. One last time, RIP.
Bang Bros. Trying to keep it. The Bang Bros.
I'm gonna look back and miss that era. Just that playoff run, Reggie and Dorian. But now, if they get Matisse Thybulle, they have now that again in Grant Williams and Matisse Thybulle. I mean, it is kind of similar to it. But they even have it now with Grant Williams and Josh Green. So I guess you could call them that at this point. But I think that he's an upgrade in just that. Grant Williams. Listen to this. All right. Mavericks fans, are you sitting down? Are you sitting down? Last year in October, Grant Williams shot 67% from 3. In November, he shot 39% from 3. In December, he shot 44% from 3. So
we've never seen that.
Yeah, that's something we haven't seen out of wings in a while. Reggie Bullock would always take a while to get going, and he would shoot low percentages to start the year. And it's just something that he has to get into. And last year was particularly rough. He ended up course correcting, and he shot a good percentage by the end of the year. But Grant Williams will shoot a better percentage early on, at least by the numbers in the past. So that's something you look forward to. And then everything you just said is correct. He's bigger. He defends bigger guys better. The Mavericks only had Maxi Kleber to do that. I mean, think about a couple years ago, even when Seth Curry, who's back on the team now, was guarding Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs. Like they just needed to, they needed to upgrade at that spot, and they have with this. And he got younger. And if anything, if you answer this question, you say, well, he's not a clear upgrade over Reggie Bullock. If anything, he's 6 years younger, 7 years younger, just about. He's signed for 4 years on a really good deal that's just about 8% of the cap over the next couple of years. And it's going to be less than that when the cap goes up, because it will by like $10 million each year. And he's also bigger, right? Like that's the three things. There's the three things that you wanted to upgrade on this team. Now, where he's not going to help is rebounding. That's still a thing the Mavericks haven't addressed at all in any of these moves, except for Lively. Lively will help with rebounding depending on how much he plays. But he is a help there. Other than that, they have not fixed rebounding or rim protection, and that's why we still think that they're trying to do a center. But let's do this for the last one. Where's your confidence meter in Nico Harrison in this front office now? Because to me, after this move, when they've been connected to Grant Williams for so long, and it's been projected for so long, the Celtics said they were going to match for so long, for them to just go and get this move done, it raised my confidence meter even just a little bit, because the Mavs are willing to just go out and make moves. We're going to go out and get it. Like if we want something, we were going to go out and make it happen. They've done it at the draft. They did it in free agency, and now they've done it again with this, restricted free agency.
Yeah, and by all accounts, Grant wanted to come here, right? Like, I mean, I think we're gonna see that pretty soon. Depending on when you listen to this podcast, you're probably gonna see some written stories and some reporting over the next 24 hours saying how bad Grant and wanted to come here and play with Luka and stuff in Dallas. So that's pretty cool to see. I mean, this goes into some of the relationship stuff and all that. I wanted to say this about Grant too. We mentioned this a little bit on the emergency pod, but Dallas has desperately needed the I'm going to get in your face type of guy.
Yes.
And that was one of the appeals for Dallas and getting Dylan Brooks, except Dylan Brooks just isn't worth $20 million, is for all the antics and everything of Dylan Brooks, you're at least going to have a guy you can throw out there, and he's going to be kind of a wild card that you just need one of those guys that can instigate crap, that can get in somebody's face, that's not going to back down, that's going to talk. And I get it. All the jokes about him and Jimmy Butler and going, but he did go face to face. And when a lot of those Boston players didn't give a crap about Jimmy Butler and no one else was wanting to guard him, at least he wanted to guard him. And at least he would talk his crap, even though he got embarrassed and Jimmy went off and all that stuff. Dallas needs one of those dudes. Like Dorian had a couple moments,
yes,
to where he was, Dorian was never backing down from anybody,
no.
But Dorian had a couple moments where he would jaw with people here and there. But like Grant's going to be doing this all the time. And I know it's going to be so annoying for some people. And a lot of times we're probably going to be like, dude, just shut up. But to have somebody that is not going to back down from trash talk Grant's going to be going in there and taking out for Luka. Like lock that in the bag. Like that's definitely going to be happening.
Oh yeah.
Put that on your bingo card for next season.
Even just for the sake of his agency, for the Bill Duffy and the agency and the agent that they share.
Yeah. So to have a guy like that is going to talk his crap and get in people's faces, that can be a versatile defender and do what Dallas wants him to do, defensively, and be a knockdown 3-point shooter. That's what, and for just $12 million, that's why I think it's a big win for Dallas. I thought he was for sure going to get more than that. I thought it was going to be around the 17 range, and to get him around the $12 million mark, especially in this economy, I think is I think it's a pretty dang good deal for Dallas.
Yeah,
and to get 2 seconds out of it too. Like what?
Spot Track already has the numbers up, and they think he's going to make 12.5. This is an estimate, but 12.5 million this upcoming year. And in the last year, he'll make 14.4, which they estimate is going to be like 8% of the cap. It's going to be 9% this year, but 8% of the cap by the fourth year. I mean, that's a good deal for a guy that you expect to start. And if you get somebody better, or if Josh Green takes a leap, or if Omax is as good as Isaac thinks he is right away, then all of a sudden, like, you can move Grant Williams to the bench, and I think that'll be fine. Like, because he's not making $20 million like Dylan Brooks is, and he demands to start and all that. So it's a good move all around. They did get a little bit better, and the Mavs' age of roster all of a sudden now you have Hardy at 21. You have the two rookies at 19 and 19 for Lively, 21 for Max. Max, why did I just call him Max? Oh, Max. Josh Green is 23, Luka's 24, Grant Williams 25. And then they all of a sudden have this younger group of guys now that they can look at and say, all right, well, maybe if you're not here, you could still improve. Like, there's a chance Grant Williams can improve a little bit or show something else they didn't show in Boston.
That's the sneaky part about this offseason so far, is they're improving, but not sacrificing the age to do it. It's not like, hey, we went out and got this older vet and we improved, but we're going the opposite way with, like, there's still a world that they could even swap out Tim and Rashawn Holmes or Tim and JaVale for a youngish center. And it's just like, you look at, I know Seth's not young, but it's like they added Seth, got better, but it didn't sacrifice a young piece. They added Grant Williams and got better, didn't sacrifice a young piece. Can they do that with majority of these offseason moves? Obviously they traded Bertans, got younger because they got another pick out of it. Added 2 draft picks, Max Olivier. So it's like, that's the cool part about this. Dallas can thread that needle this season, this offseason of, hey, we for sure got better. We addressed all of our needs. We brought back Kyrie Irving, and we have a young core group of not just like 1 player, 2 players, but like 4 or 5 players. I think that is huge and something that honestly we haven't seen the past front office really value a lot.
They still got to address center, and tomorrow we'll talk about that. The next day we'll talk about that. Until they do it, we'll continue to talk about that on the show. We'll continue to be 7 days a week, guys. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.